Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to install a Tusk UTV folding glass windshield on your Polaris RZR Pro XP. It's going to be the same process for the 2 and the 4-seaters. Now if you're running multiple accessories with this, just be aware, if you've got the Adventure roof rack, you need to make sure you are running the 30-inch V2 straight LED light bar. If you run the curved one, you're going to have clearance issues. So just be aware of that, but other than that, it's a simple install. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with our filler panel. So we've got this on the bench, and you want to apply your 39-inch piece of foam tape first to the top of this filler panel. So this is the section that has that bend right there. Once you have that in place, you can flip it over. You're going to have 2 more strips of foam tape. They're going to be 10 inches long. You're going to go from top to bottom on each side of the filler panel, and then you can see you're going to cut out or make a notch in your foam tape that's about a ½ an inch wide on each side, and we're going to cut that out with a razor blade and then just peel that section out. That's because you're going to have some roll cage clamps that are going to sit right there. Next, we're going to attach our windshield wiper. We're going to do this at the bench. So we have a plug in the filler panel that we need to remove. I'm just pressing on some tabs with my pliers. It should push right through. Now I've gone ahead and put the filler panel on some wooden blocks to help me install the mount and handle for the windshield wiper. On the handle, you've got a smaller nut. You want to remove that. Then we've got the mount, and that slides right off. You're going to remove 1 nut from this, a washer and a grommet. And I'm going to come through the back side and reinstall the grommet, washer, and nut. Then you want to have a 19mm and adjustable wrench to snug this up. So you just want to compress that rubber just a little bit. Then we're going to prep the windshield wiper and arm. So we're going to remove that protective cover. Just slides right off. And then you can see you have a tab on each side of the wiper cover. We're going to take the wiper arm, go through there. This is just going to hook on just like that. Snap the cover back into place, and now I can take the handle for the wiper going through the mount. And with this, you're going to have splines on the wiper arm and the wiper handle. You want to line those up, and I like to have the handle in line with the arm. And you can thread that smaller nut on and use a 10mm wrench to snug it up. Next, I'm going to flip the filler panel around just so you guys can see this process, but we're going to install a little standoff. We've got an M6 by 25mm button head bolt, our spacer, and then we're going to go through the filler panel. We've got the nylock nut on the inside, and then I'm going to use a 4mm Allen and 10mm combo wrench to tighten those down. Next, you want to lay the windshield down on your table and make sure you have a soft surface. So we have this rubber mat, but if you don't have one, just use a blanket or whatever. We're going to take a 22-inch piece of foam tape. We're going to start just below that slot. We're going to wrap this all the way down to the bottom right next to this hinge. Then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Then we have the 48-inch piece of foam tape. We're going to start on the other side of this slot right there. So right in this corner, and I'm going to go all the way across this top edge to this other mounting slot. And I've got a little bit of extra length, so I'm just going to trim that off. Next, we're going to take the 38-inch piece of bulb seal, and we're going to attach it to the bottom of the vent. You just want to make sure the rubber seal is going to be facing in towards the cab when you press this in place. And if there's any loose spots on this bulb seal when you press it on, you can simply pinch it together for a tighter fit and press it back on. You can also use a soft face mallet to help tap this into place. Then we have the 3-inch piece of bulb seal. It's going to go on this little raised tab right in the middle. Next, we're going to install the brackets for the vent. So we're going to start with bracket A, and you can see these 2 mounting locations right here. We're going to set it on there. You can see the bend is facing up towards the top of the windshield. We're taking the M6 by 16mm button head bolts. We're going to go through the front of the windshield, then through the bracket, and we've got the nylock nut on the back side. And all of this hardware for the brackets we're going to leave loose until we've made all of our adjustments. And then we've got bracket B, that's your smaller bracket. you're going to line it up with these two mounting holes, and the bend is in line with bracket A. We're going to use the same size of hardware to install that. Next we have bracket C, and we've got this pivot at the bottom. It's going to attach to bracket B. And I'm using another 16mm button head bolt, nylock nut on the back side. Next I'm going to take my hand knob. I'm going to go into bracket C. We've got the friction washer. That's going to be between bracket C and bracket A. Thread that into place. And then from here you want to make sure everything is lined up so the vent opens and closes easily. Once you have everything lined up, you can go ahead and tighten all of the hardware down. Just keep in mind on the pivot, you're going to go until the nut lightly seats and then back that off about 1/4 of a turn. And that way it can pivot freely. And we're just using a 4mm Allen and a 10mm combo wrench. Now over at the machine, we've gone ahead and loosened up the hardware attaching the front of the roof. Now we can set the filler panel in place, and we're going to start in each corner. We're going to install the M8 by 25mm button head bolts. We've got the nylock nuts on the inside. Now the lower mounts for the filler panel are going to be these P-clamps. So this flat section, that is going to sit against the filler panel. We're just going to go around the roll cage. You're going to pull the clamp tight and then line up the hole in the filler panel with the clamp. And we're using the M6 by 16mm button head bolt with a washer to go through there, and then the nylock nut on the back side. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. The next step is to install your standoff brackets. Now these are side specific. You're going to want to make sure the bend at the top faces in towards the center of the machine. Now to install this, we're going to remove these two bolts on the side of the hood using our T40 Torx bit. Set the bracket in place, then reinstall the bolts, and again, leave those loose. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Next, we're moving on to the roll cage clamps. So you are not going to reuse this bolt that comes in them. It has that little star washer. We're going to set that aside. I'm going to remove that spacer. And then this just presses right onto the roll cage. But if you want to prevent scratching your roll cage, one thing you can do is use a bag, press that on, and then we'll go do the same thing on the other side. Now I'm going to have a friend help me set the windshield in place. I've got it in the folded down position, and we're going to set it on those standoffs and screw in the hand knobs on each side. Then we can take our M8 by 75mm button head bolts. We've got a washer on each one. We're going through the mount on the windshield, then through the roll cage mount. Make sure that spacer is in place. And then you've got a nylock nut on the back side. So with that hardware loosely installed, we're going to adjust the standoff brackets so we're right about the middle of the adjustment. So I'm going to slide that forward, about right there. And I'm going to temporarily tighten these down. Once you do the other side, you're also going to get the bolts going through these clamps. You want to snug them up just to the point where we're still going to be able to move these clamps up and down, but if we move them, we want them to stay in place. Now you might notice a gap between your windshield frame and your clamp. If that happens, you want to make sure these are squared up as you snug everything down. Now with your filler panel, every roll cage is going to be slightly different. So we've included a spacer with every kit to go between the gusset and your filler panel in this top mounting location. So if you do have that little gap on the side of your filler panel, you're going to want to use a spacer. And if that's too big, you can use 1 or 2 washers to get everything perfectly squared up. And then you're going to want to use the same size of spacer on the other side. Now I'm going to remove the hand knobs and I'm going to fold the windshield up, and I'm holding onto the frame, making sure these clamps don't move. You want to keep everything aligned, and this should be pretty close to where it needs to be. What we're going to do now is move the filler panel around until we have the holes in this movable piece lined up with the holes in the filler panel. And we're going to thread the hand knobs in. The filler panel can move from side to side and up and down. So with this, once you have it lined up with the holes, you're going to have a little bit of adjustability up and down. And I'm moving this so the hand knob is pretty close to the center of that slot, still leaving those a little loose. And what you want now, at the bottom of your window frame, right in these corners, you want about a 1/4 inch gap between your hood and the frame itself. So this whole assembly needs to shift up. And you also want to make sure it's centered side to side. And once you have everything squared up, you want to tighten down these hand knobs, and we're going to tighten down the filler panel hardware. Next, I'm going to hold on to the bottom of the frame and fold the windshield down and just make sure that those clamps don't move. We're going to tighten both of these roll cage clamps down. The next step is to loosen up the hardware in the standoff bracket. We're going to line up the threads with the slot in our window frame and then install the hand knobs, and we can tighten down both of the mounting bolts. Now with everything mounted up, I'm going to remove the hand knobs now and verify that when I fold the windshield back up that the holes in the filler panels still line up. Now as you tighten everything down, if things don't line up perfectly, make sure you just keep making adjustments until everything does. Once you've done all that, you can retighten the hardware in the front of the roof. Now with this vent door, it's normal for that bulb seal to hold it up just a little bit. And if you want it further in, what you can do is press down on the door and tighten up the hand knob. And that's how you install the Tusk UTV folding glass windshield on your Polaris RZR Pro XP. If you need one of these, you can find them on our website. Just click the link in the description below. It's going to take you over there. We've got a ton of other accessories for these machines, so go check those out. And if you want to see more helpful content like this, then subscribe to our channel. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Thanks for watching.